All right. What is up, all you cool cat girls and divorced alcoholic grown-ass cat men? It is time to empty the litter box and alt-tab to DeviantArt. This is Super Despair World, the only podcast banned from the Hilton Motif Hotel in Seattle. Before we start off today, we've got really, this is a big landmark episode for us. Just wanted to offer a quick little apology first for no episode last week. My area was hit with an awful snowstorm, completely knocked out the internet in my area, so that completely fucked our recording day. But we are here, we are live, at least in this Discord call where we're recording, and we'll kick it off. Dave, why don't you tell our audience what we've got in store today?
Yeah, so this is a red letter day. This is episode 10. Amazing. We've made it so far, folks. And to make this red letter 10th episode very special, we have a special guest. So we're going to kick it over to our dear sweet child of God, who we have on our show today. Why don't you introduce yourself, special guest?
Hey, my name is Felix. Other people know me as Trashbinz. I just do, I draw some stuff sometimes and just kind of shitpost. That's pretty much me. Hey.
Hey.
Hell yeah. Today we are talking about furries, the furry fandom, cute furry women with big round asses, and maybe furry men as well. We're going into the fandom in general. When we started the show, it was kind of our goal to explore different subcultures on the internet, both the good and the bad. And for a little while, I had this feeling like, are we getting a little too cynical? It feels like a lot of the time we talk about like weird like dipshit schizo posters on 4chan or like blue checkmark people on Twitter. So today we're going to turn things around a little bit and talk about some people that I actually think are pretty charming, although neither Dave nor myself are furries exactly. So we thought we'd bring in a little expert to help guide us through the world of anthropomorphic characters.
Yeah, we're getting wholesome today.
Yeah, we're getting wholesome. We're gonna get cute and ooh-woo. We're gonna put on the big paws and the furry ears, and we're gonna learn some things. So, Felix, why don't you tell us, like, in your eyes, what is a furry? What's the furry fandom about? Just like what's all this stuff the kids are into nowadays?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, just being a furry, it varies depending on person to person. But generally, it's people who are fans of anthropomorphic animals, whether that's in like art, video games, any other sort of media, and maybe some people identify with that through like a fursona. Other people like to dress up, role play. The world's their oyster.
Yeah, so I've been aware of furries for a long time. I've been on the internet since a very young age. I've basically been completely unsupervised with the internet since like 1998 when I was about 5 years old. And I've seen a lot of weird things out there, a lot of interesting things as well. One thing that really got to me when I was younger was like getting into all these like different online games where you like make your own character, you make your own little like avatar persona that you present to the world. So I was wondering, what got you into it? What was your like intro? How long have you been into the fandom? What's that like?
So growing up, I think there's always been at least a part of me that identified and enjoyed like anthropomorphic media. When I was younger, movies like American Tail, Five Goes West, and like 90s Space Jam, and just a lot of media kind of going into the 90s and 2000s. I always felt like I identified with it a little bit, and it wasn't until about maybe sometime in high school where I started coming across web comics and forums and image boards and stuff like that, where I'd be able to meet and talk to people who kind of thought like I did. And it was really interesting growing into that, and learned a lot about furry art, fursuiting, people who like to role play or lifestylers who try and incorporate like little animal behaviors into their day-to-day. It's really interesting that.
I'd really like to see the data on how many people's furry awakening has been through Space Jam. Like it's got to be a non-zero number, right?
It's got to be a lot. I think if I had to kind of like put it like each era, the first one would probably be like Maid Marian and Robin Hood and the Disney's animated movie. So that was kind of like the 80s. 90s, I would say, yeah, Lola Bunny and Space Jam was a pretty big one. And then maybe like Minerva Mink from Animaniacs.
Ooh, that's a deep cut.
Ooh, yeah. And then for the, 2000s, what would that be, like Crystal Fox from the Star Fox Adventures game? Really?
Oh, shit, I played that one.
Yeah,
she's pretty cute, not gonna lie.
Yeah, she was a really big influence in the, like, the GameCube era, but... And then nowadays you've got like Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde from Zootopia, and it's just the umbrella gets larger every day.
We've come so far, really, and now we got Rouge the Bat from.
Rouge the Bat! Yeah. How could I forget?
That's a banger. Sometimes like I don't consider myself a furry, but it's like, yeah, I get it.
Well, and kind of with Sonic characters, I guess one that's a bit more lesser known because. She was more like a character of like the 90s Sonic canon was Sally Acorn. She was I'd say she had like a decent influence on like furry tastes in those days.
I'm actually vaguely aware of Sally, if only because I've seen a lot of videos on the internet talking about what's his name, Ken something, the guy who like caused a lot of controversy in like the Sonic comics.
Oh, Ken Penders, I think.
Penders, yes, I believe that's who it was. There was something about like he tried to license or like he tried to claim like the echidnas, like Knuckles were like his original thing, like separate from Sega or something nuts like that.
Yeah, he definitely has some interesting ideas, and I think he basically has his own spin-off comic, which is artistically interesting, to put it in a positive note, and I think it features like his sort of like take on the echidna characters.
So how does it compare to Sonichu by the illustrious artist Chris Chan?
I would say compared to Sonichu, it is more technically competent, but I'm forgetting the name of the yeah, I'm forgetting the name of the artist, but there's like some Marvel artist where he draws like guys with like these gigantic barrel chests.
Rob
Liefeld. I think we've talked about him on the pod
I would consider him the Rob Liefeld of the Sonic universe.
Okay, yeah, so an amazing artist is what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's a lot that could be said about Liefeld. I don't know if I would say he's an amazing artist, but he's definitely a source of inspiration. Like, wow, you can go really far in the world of art without knowing how to draw feet.
I mean, say what you will about him, but we do know his name.
True, exactly, and that's both inspiring and kind of depressing at the same time.
Yeah, well, the only thing that can take you farther than not knowing how to draw feet is knowing how to draw feet really, really well.
Yeah. All you need is a triangle. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Dave, you brought this up a little bit earlier, but it's kind of funny that you use the word awakening, because this is kind of how I've come to think of a lot of different like subcultures, especially ones that are like, I'm not going to say like furries are like purely a kink or sexual thing, because I know they're not, and we can talk about that later. But there's a whole thing about like a furry awakening, like the first thing you see in a piece of media that really resonates with you and kind of like unlocks something in your like primordial child brain. I think we've seen that in a lot of different fandoms. Felix, do you want to talk about your own furry awakening?
Yeah, well, my furry awakening, at least from what I remember, like I said, I got really into the webcomic scene when I was first getting access to the internet. I didn't have internet until I was in high school, so I guess a bit of a late bloomer compared to a lot of people nowadays. But
you're probably better off,
trust me.
And look how I turned out. But But no, I came across like these niche web comics, and I think the only one I can think that might be like mainstream enough would be Two Kinds, which was written by a guy named Mark Fishbach, which is or no, not Mark Fishbach, Tom Fishbach, Markiplier's brother.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, for real. And
as soon as you said Fishbach, I was like, where the hell have I heard that name before?
So wait, so his name is Fishbach. Is his fursona a fish?
the thing is, I don't think he specifically has a fursona. But the characters in that one, it's, I'm not current on the comic. I'd have to do a lot of catching up. But, basically it's like this sort of fantasy universe, and there's like humans, and then there's these sort of like Therian characters like, tigers and wolves and stuff, and, the main character is this like blue-haired wizard guy named Chase, and the love interest to him is this tiger. I'm trying to remember her name. I think it was like Fiona or something. I could be off on that though.
So this is what normalized interspecies relationships to not only the world but you as well.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay, that's good. So yeah.
I just pulled the comic up on my end, and I am seeing it has a very like kind of 90s anime sort of style. Maybe this will come off the wrong way because some people take this a little sour. It reminds me a little bit of, if you've ever been in those like book fairs when you were a kid, those like how to draw anime style books.
Yeah, it definitely has like the very big eyes, and I don't know, I really like the style, but it was funny because I hadn't even heard of Markiplier. When I first heard his name and I like watched a couple videos, he's like, yeah, Mark Fishbach, and I'm like, wait a minute, I've heard that name before, and it's like, wait, you're Tom's little brother? What the hell?
That's really funny, discovering Markiplier through his brother's Furry.
Yeah. And then, yeah, just that one, and then there were some other, I think it was called Slightly Damned, which is made by an artist that I think goes by the Chew these days. I actually got to meet them at Midwest Fur Fest just this past December, so that was interesting. Bought a couple of t-shirts, and yeah, it was really cool meeting them.
Hell yeah, that's really cool. I looked up this comic as well. I'm also noticing, once again, a little bit of an anime style influence. Is there a lot of like overlap between like the furry fandom and like weebs or like people into Japanese media, you would say?
I would say so. In fact, a lot of the kind of early furry fandom, funny enough, before they were furries, they were known as funny animal fans.
Oh yeah, that's a terrible name.
Yeah, it's
I'm glad they changed that.
Yeah, glad they...
Sounds like a euphemism to cover up something.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, I think there's like an innocence to it where it's like back then it's like, oh, we're fans of like this sort of like classic Disney with like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, Looney Tunes and Hanna-Barbera animations. They're like funny kind of animal guys. Well, what if we just called ourselves funny animal fans?
Yeah, that term is also used to talk about Welshmen and New Zealanders, though, so I think it's a little bit problematic.
Yeah. But
yeah, much love to our Welsh and Kiwi. Is that the term?
Yeah,
Kiwi listeners.
Yeah, we love you. We love you guys. We know you're not the one doing it. It's your neighbor.
Yeah. And to the point of the anime comparison, a lot of early furry fandoms actually grew out of both like science fiction and anime sort of fan clubs and meetups and stuff. And let's see. Yeah, a lot of it just kind of grew out of that, and first developed into the scene as comic books that they called APAs, or Amateur Press Associations, where they'd get like these independent artists, they'd do like a sort of collab and make this little fanzine or like fan magazine that they would kind of publicate to like other people who were interested. It was a really interesting thing that kind of picked up before the internet.
Well, yeah, I think that ties into something else that we wanted to talk about, is how as Briar mentioned earlier, we are usually, or we have been unintentionally, I think, kind of haters on this podcast so much. lately, just because there's so much shit to shit on. There's so much shit.
Most subcultures kind of suck ass. That's not our fault.
Yes,
okay?
yes, but furries, ironically, and I say ironically just for something that we're going to talk about later, have stayed very pure, and I think part of that is probably due to the origins of it, in the sense of like, yeah, it's all organic, it's all actual fans, people making zines, people doing meetups, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I mean, as with any community, there's definitely its share of drama and negativity. But I mean, I think overall there's plenty to be said about the creativity, the camaraderie, and just kind of the general atmosphere of acceptance within the community.
Yeah, this is something I've kind of noticed myself. So like I said, I'm not a furry personally, but I am big into the art community online, and by big into it I mean I follow a lot of people. I'm a nobody follows me, but being aware of like how a lot of people like circulate their art or like share things together, there's this culture of like kind of like keeping things within the community where like people make things and other people like commission other people. It's got this own like it's internal, it's got its own kind of like self-feeding like little economy of like creators and like passionate fans and consumers. And it's kind of interesting to me that like the furry fandom seems at the same time really big, but also like it doesn't seem like it's been like commodified or like sold out or like
right.
like a big corporation has tried to like sell it back to you guys. So like what's your experience with that, like the DIY side of things?
So kind of on the DIY, it's like, I mean, I think like commercially, like the most viable that you get is you find a lot of artists independent at these conventions. You find them in artist alleys where they're trying to sell their wares, or maybe you have someone who makes these extravagant yet expensive fursuits that sometimes can go for like a few $1,000s. Some I've even heard of going in the 5 figures, which I wish I could have one of those, but
that is wild. I mean, they're cool as shit though. Whatever you think about furries, you cannot say that these fursuits are not absolutely legit.
Oh yeah, and the creativity that you get with some of them, some it's just like very vibrant color patterns, others like they include fancy wings. I mean, a lot of the good ones, they have basically their own little ventilation system with several like fans, and
they have like powered fans and shit in there, right?
Yeah. And then you get to what is it? You get to like these sort of, I guess, like hybrids between like furries and machines, where it's like you've got ones where they have like a screen for a face, and like they actually have like this LED little display on their mask that they can animate and do all sorts of other effects with, whether that's like man, I'm trying to remember the name of them. Let's see.
While you think on that, I did see a video recently of just some people showing off their different fursuits, and there was this one person. I'll be vague because I don't remember if it was like a guy or a girl, like their pronouns or whatever. But they were like a fursuit maker, and they were showing off the head they made to this fursuit recently, and they had this like RFID thing like built into the nose, so that people could walk up to them and like boop their like cell phone against the nose, and it would pull up like the fursuit maker's like commissions page or something like that. And I was like, that's cool as hell.
Oh, that's really novel. Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking this. So it's there's 2 of them. Most of them end up being like protogens, but occasionally you get like what are called synths, and I guess they're a little bit more like animal in appearance, and then they've just got like sort of like a lizard kind of look to them, like a robot lizard with a, again, kind of like the LED for the face. And some of the just like technology and the marksmanship that goes into those is like really astounding and inspiring in that way.
Yeah, that is very cool. I have to say, because you see this shit that's you know, totally made by what I assume are just, you know, I'm not going to say hobbyists because they sell their shit and obviously they sell them for good money, but like these are
it's a cottage industry.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. A cottage industry. But like they're definitely on tier with like the shit you see at like Disney World and stuff like that. And in some cases, like better.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's like a few names. One that comes to mind is Lemon Brat. They're sort of, I guess, like a very mainstream, at least within the furry community, is like a very like pretty good quality suit maker that they kind of have their production line figured out. They know exactly like how to kind of get things rolling.
I mean, if I had fuck you money, I'm not gonna lie, I would get a fursuit, and it's not to like express my identity as you know, a furry or anything like that, but because they're cool as shit, and you know, like Halloween costume at the very least. But you know, sometimes, hey, I might just walk the streets in it. Just say, wait, maybe I am a furry. Oh shit.
Uh-oh.
What animal is your fursona, Dave?
See, that's a good question. I haven't really thought of it, and I just talked about this with one of my students lately because we were talking about like children's media and depictions of like racial makeup and whether there's like who's represented in this, and the amount of animals in children's literature has been growing steadily. And I kind of asked this student, I was like, well, why do you think that is? And because, well, I think one of the things about anthropomorphic characters, and this is not a unique take at all, is that you can identify with them very easily because they don't necessarily look like anyone that exists in this world. So it's easier to identify with that. It's kind of like the question of like, well, why did Orwell put animals in Animal Farm instead of just having people? Because, well, it does make a difference. But like, what animal would I be in like a Richard Scarry book is probably different than what I would pick for my fursona, my fursuit. I don't know, just because when I think about that, I think about like, well, how do I physically look? And I'd probably say like a fucking reindeer or like or like some sort of bird of prey, maybe. Maybe that's a little self-aggrandizing, bird of prey. I'd probably be like a fucking ostrich. But like if I could pick, I don't know. I've always been a fan of tigers in general.
Yeah, well, we in the furry community, we do have a cutting-edge way of figuring out, for anyone who isn't a furry, what their fursona would be.
Ooh, do tell.
For me to lay
Is
it on
it
you?
like a sorting hat for what furry would be?
Yeah. So hold your hats here, because this is going to be a doozy.
I'm holding.
What is your favorite animal, and what is your favorite color?
Ooh. Well, my favorite animal is the tiger, so maybe that's why I said that. My favorite color is traditionally green.
Green, okay.
Yeah.
Funny enough, a lot of people, I think somebody figured it out that the most popular furry fursona color is blue.
Okay, but I think blue is kind of the most popular favorite color in general, though.
Yeah, I think that tracks, and I think green is pretty high up there too, since it's like nice and easy on the eye and everything.
So how does that determine one's spirit animal, furry, so to speak?
Just more of like a basic like, hey, here's like a good starter baby's first fursona type sort of thing, I guess.
So I'd be a green tiger, is what you're saying? Yeah,
you'd be a green tiger, and then who knows? Maybe you might incorporate elements of your personality, maybe hobbies, maybe you're into music, so maybe you've got like some visual motifs around music. Mm-hmm. Maybe you've got like music notes in your fur pattern or something like that.
Oh, okay, I see where you're going here. I see where you're going. So you can kind of it's kind of a collage or a motif of just like all sorts of shit that you're into that you like.
It's like a little collage of things you are, things you like, things you want to be.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like
Yeah, so like from the outside, I guess my main assumption would have been, oh, maybe it's like a very like subtle thing. Maybe you have to really read into it. But it sounds more like, well, no, it's pretty like you just wear your interests on your sleeves, and it's like it's pretty out there. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, and for some, it can definitely be that. For mine, I'm a possum, a kind of like a sort of dark red maroon. And the name I went for the character is Rhubarb. And the design's actually just very simple. It's like kind of white and black fur. And then where the gray would be, there's like this sort of dark maroon color. So it's like I like to keep things simple.
So is this because your interest is eating garbage, or?
That's part of it. Yeah.
Possums are cool though. I see a lot of people vibe with them as well as raccoons. Just a kind of like a Zoomer millennial, like, haha, I'm so trash. Like, oh, I'm just like rolling around in the filth. I'm like, yeah, that's relatable.
No,
I kind of vibe with
possums are one of those animals that gets a bad rap, but they're actually incredibly cool. Number one, because they eat ticks, and ticks fucking suck. So like, we should have more possums.
Yeah, we definitely need more possums in the community. But it is fun to kind of like revel in those sort of like pre-made stereotypes where it's like, yeah, I'm a possum. I like eating garbage. I like whenever I get stressed, I show my teeth and hiss at people. That sort of deal.
So this is why you picked possum.
Well, for me, it kind of goes back to that formula. I picked what my favorite animal was, and the color I went with wasn't like my favorite color per se. I'd say I kind of like pinks and purples, but
yeah. And that's why I said traditionally my favorite color is green, because it's kind of like what I chose as a kid. But as far as like things that I wear and designs that I make and things like that, I usually go for more like pastel type of like yellows and oranges and things like that. So I mean I think there is a bit of disconnect there.
Yeah, and then I mean the nice thing about it being like this Fursona is you don't even have to settle on one. Some people have multiple versions of their Fursonas. Like it could be like, well, I have a bunny Fursona, I have a tiger Fursona, I have a possum Fursona.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
some they like to do a mix and mash. They're like, I'm a bunny deer Fursona.
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't think I could just pick one. It's like when you have multiple characters in a game. It's like I don't always want to be this one. Sometimes I want to be this one, and you do have the freedom to do that.
Yeah, I relate to this a lot. Outside of running an excellent podcast, my big hobby is playing tabletop games, and there's a lot of them I've played over the years. Some of them I've been in like the same setting for like close to a decade, and I've made like all these different like original characters I've gotten very attached to over time. So like I understand the appeal of like making up like an alternative self and kind of just like embodying that for like a little while, and just all the stuff that goes into that, and the creativity and everything.
Well, I think that's the appeal of all of that in general, right? Is even if you're not trying to, even if it's not escapism, which I think a lot of people would just default to, is like, well, that's obviously what's going on here. It's like, not necessarily, man. Sometimes it's just fun to, like that's why I like Halloween and shit. I like dressing up in some random stupid like thing that I don't normally do, because it's fucking fun. Everybody loves it.
Yeah, and that's a fun thing about furries is it's like, at least if you have a fursuit or any other sort of like piece of costume, it's Halloween can be any day you want it to be. And
exactly. And I think we need like 4 to 5 Halloweens a year, just not necessarily Halloween, but you know, just times where it's culturally like relevant to dress up and just walk around town. We need more of that, I think. I think people would be happy.
I've seen a lot of photos of these parades throughout like different places in Europe where they do like a little like festival or something. It's very different in different countries, but like they do these festivals where people dress up as these like pagan like forest spirits. They're kind of associated with like like Yuletide and like what Christmas was before Europe got Christianized and all that. I'm like, we need more of that. We need to people to dress up as like big spooky like monsters and like creatures from the woods and shit.
Oh, you're talking about when they do like blackface in Denmark or whatever?
No. That's something totally different. We disavow the. Is that Denmark? I thought that was the Netherlands.
No, you're right. It's a Dutch thing.
It's one of those Hjerding countries, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's wild.
But wait, there's one question I wanted to ask but before that, Briar, what would your fursona be based on Felix's criteria?
On that criteria, I don't know. I was thinking about this while you guys were talking, and it's hard for me to say because like my favorite color is blue, and I kind of worked that into my special little original character that I present for the show, but that's not quite as fun. I don't want to just like turn her into like a fursona. So I thought about this a little bit, and I'm thinking I'm really into like horror influenced media. I like dark, spooky things. I like being a little bit of an edgelord in the media I consume. So I feel like my fursona would probably be like some kind of like crow or raven or like some kind of dark bird that's associated with bad things going on. And I think it'd be cool because I really like how birds have this like interesting way they move their heads and their necks. Like they just like tilt their heads in a very fun way. That looks like it would be fun to like act out in a fursuit or something, just getting up in people's faces or whatever.
Yeah, crows are really cool. Like they're very interesting. They're extremely black, like one of the blackest animals, I would say. So like I think just that and their shininess lends themselves to like a very striking look, and they're incredibly intelligent, as I'm sure you guys know.
Yeah, the funny thing about birds is that like a lot of people probably wouldn't think crows are that smart because I guess we kind of just see them everywhere, so we're kind of used to seeing them as like a bit of a nuisance. But then we look at another bird that people think is like, oh, this is like a symbol of wisdom and it's very clever, like owls or something.
Yeah,
and no, owls are dumb as shit.
Yeah, I think they just have good vision. I don't know where does that stereotype come from?
I don't know. Is it because of the fucking like Tootsie Pop commercials or whatever?
Right.
Owl
yeah.
trying to.
Oh, many lips.
Or maybe like the. Is the owl character? Is that from like Winnie the Pooh or something like that?
Oh yeah, Mr.
There isn't.
Owl.
Yeah, Mr. Owl. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Birds are cool. I feel like I don't see a lot of people with bird fursonas, but maybe that's just because I'm not in the community.
They're a little less common, but I definitely do like them. I remember one convention I ran into someone who had sort of like a blue jay fursuit on, and it was really well put together. I can't imagine that was cheap at all.
Yeah, so my follow-up question, and Felix, I don't want to get you in trouble with the community, so I'm going to phrase this in the nicest way possible.
Lay it on me.
But what would you say is the most basic bitch fursona that you see way too much? And counterpoint, what is the most unique fursona that you've seen before?
The most basic bitch one, honestly, I think it kind of comes in waves. But the two that stand out the most, I would say, are foxes and wolves. Those tend to be very common.
Yeah. Inside you are two wolves.
Yeah, one is a fox, one is a wolf.
If you go to the right furry convention, there can be much more than two wolves inside you.
I was trying to think of a joke like that, but that one's way better.
And then as for unique fursonas, I mean, I've seen a lot where even if it's not like a unique species, just the presentation or the colors or just how they kind of pull everything together is unique by itself. But one that is pretty unique to me that stands out is a more famous sort of character in the furry community. He's actually, I think, one of the heads of the Anthrocon convention. His name's Uncle Kage, and he is a cockroach.
Ooh, okay. So we talked about this off pod before, but Refresh my memory. So is I guess the furry community is just an overarching anthropomorphic, not human community, but is there a distinction between people who do insects and I know scalies is a thing that I've heard before.
Yeah, so there's for the most part everyone just kind of calls themselves furries, but I've heard some people refer to themselves as scalies if they have like more of like a reptile sort of presentation. Going back to birds, I don't know if birdies is a term or if they just kind of stick with furry because that's close enough. But then for like the bug ones, I have heard buggies being referred to occasionally.
I mean that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I've heard the term avian thrown around before for the bird ones, but I don't know if that's actually used in the community at all, or if that's just some bullshit I read on the internet.
Yeah, the avian is used pretty frequently to kind of refer to themselves.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we were talking about this before we started recording, and I was Googling furry fandom bug guy because I couldn't remember his name, so I'm glad you were on top of that.
Yeah.
It reminds me, a couple episodes ago, we were talking about VTubers, and one of the more unique independent ones I saw, I think her name was Matara or something like that. She was like a cockroach as well, so I'm like, okay, I can see why people might identify with that. It's like a bug that's like impossible to get rid of, so that seems like a cool basis for a character.
I mean, yeah. Cockroaches are pretty badass. They can apparently survive like a nuclear blast. So every cockroach fursona will survive long after the nukes are dropped.
They'll last longer than this show, that's for sure.
True. And at least among bug furries or buggies, I think the two I've seen the most, again, seeing bugs is not very common. So when you do see one, it's like, oh wow, a bug. As you see like butterflies and bumblebees I've seen a lot of, and I guess moths as well, kind of going with bumblebees, kind of like a little 1 and 2.
Moths are very cool because I guess, well, they're bugs, but they are also kind of furry. They have the little patches of fuzz on there. They're very cute animals. I like.
Well, I was just going to say, because it's just popped into my head, sorry. But I think you can see an analog with, and this goes with what you were saying, Briar, about D&D, is like, when you play D&D for a while, not that I have, I've played a little bit, but I get the feeling that, like, everybody, especially new players, is, like, a half-elf. And it's like, and like, that's fine, they're cool, but then you see somebody who plays, like, a goblin or some shit, and it's like, fuck yeah, like that's what I'm talking about. Like, good for you, god damn it. So is that in a sense kind of like a sentiment that's in the furry community, is just like, oh, it's not a bunny for once, like it's something unique, something that might be a little bit less wish fulfillment, not to be a hater about it, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there is that sort of drive, being a community of creatives and stuff, that it's like, well, they want to try and find their unique way of standing out, whether it's through like the colors, or maybe they're like a species hybrid, or maybe they're like a robot or something. It's like, it really varies.
I mean, shit, it's a blank slate, right? Like, why not get crazy with it?
Yeah, if you got a blank canvas, you may as well do something fun with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of different Fursonas where I think, okay, this says it's a different species. This says it's like a dragon or something, but it looks very similar to all the dogs and wolves I've seen. So I think on some level, my first assumption is like, okay, well, maybe there's like a fursuit maker and it's just easier to make every head with like a dog or wolf template to start with, or something like that. I also know a lot of people get into it like pretty young, like before they have money to like commission a good artist, or like before they have their own art skills. So maybe it's easier to just default to like the more popular species starting out, and maybe having a more original one is a bit of a privilege. I don't know.
I would say that's actually a pretty accurate sentiment. One thing that does get sold for makers is these sort of molds, or like I guess like a base for the head. So a lot of it, you get like canine, you get feline, just all the sort of kind of like overarching branches. You're not going to get like golden retriever or chihuahua or something. That'd be a little too much to try and like sell every specific thing. But you get like the big overarching ones, and with the advent of technology like 3D printing, it's become a lot more accessible. Where sometimes they'll even just sell like the STL file.
STLs, yeah.
And then at the Midwest Fur Fest, when I went there, I saw some. It was kind of like these sort of plastic 3D printed things that you can kind of use to kind of build off into like the fursuit head.
That's really interesting. That's actually something that I didn't think of at all. Is just, and that may just be like an economic onus to be a more sort of standard furry archetype, just because then you can actually get things, as far as fursuits go at least, more easily, because it's not like going to be super custom, super duper custom, just kind of like, yeah, this standard thing, but in a different color or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen in the art community a lot of things that independent artists do. They'll do this type of commission called Your Character Here, or YCH, where they'll draw like half finished drawing where you can see like a character like in a pose, but the character has like no face and no features or something. So it's like, commission me and I'll draw your character over this template that I made. So that's probably a good cheaper alternative, because like with those you can make like one Your Character Here template and then turn that into like 10 different commissions for different people. So it makes sense. It saves a lot of time and effort.
Yeah, and when it comes to like furry commissions, kind of going with the whole price thing, yeah, getting something that it's like maybe like one or two basic colors, very minimal detail, it's going to be a lot cheaper than saying it's like, well, I want this with multiple different colors you have to source, big wings, LED elements, fan elements.
The whole sparkle dog phenomenon.
Yeah.
I know the words.
And there's one popular fursuit adjustment, or I guess add-on, called, I think it's like Dutch angel wings is what they're referred to as. And it's like these big over-the-top wings that you can usually get on your fursuits. Dragons will get them a lot of times. And yeah, it's just pretty interesting with how things kind of differ depending on whether it's you're looking at price, or maybe money's no object and you just want to go balls to the wall with whatever you got.
So then is there like a classist hierarchy of fursuits where people just say, well, this is like clearly an aristocrat who has this dope fursuit, and I got like an off the rack one. So those people, they I don't know, how can you say they look down on this lesser pleb? I'm sure that doesn't happen, but
yeah, I don't think there's anyone. I mean, maybe there's someone out there, but I don't imagine too many people look down if you don't have a suit. But there's definitely a lot of people who are like, man, I wish I had like a spare like $5,000 to get a suit of my own.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's actually a good thing that you brought up, Dave, because I was thinking about this. I wanted to move along and talk about like what sort of people are you going to run into in the furry community, because maybe to start things off, I've seen this stereotype on Twitter and other places online that not all furries, but it seems like there is at least a subsection of the fandom made up of a lot of like suspiciously wealthy people. I've seen like a few years ago at the height of COVID, one of the like lead scientists working on the first vaccine was like, oh yeah, I'm a furry in my spare time. I just post my fursuit to Twitter while I work on this like really important medicine that'll save millions of people.
Wait, really? No shit.
Like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know there was at least one other one that has like a job at like NASA or something like that. Apparently there are a lot of furries in tech, but maybe you can tell us more about that, Felix.
Yeah, I think the overlap between, and I guess it's kind of like maybe two sides of the same coin, IT/tech furries and then suspiciously wealthy furries. I haven't met many of those. Usually a lot of the furries I've met are little on the lower side of the financial echelon, I guess you could say. But as far as like the sort of like big tech furries who are making like six figures, and in some cases I've heard some people spending like $20,000 on an art commission, and sometimes it doesn't even turn out that well as far as like the actual quality of the commission, but they're just like, do it anyway, I don't care.
Fuck it.
Well, there was the whole controversy recently, not to date this episode too much, about the person that spent like $50,000 on a has-been hotel animation or something like that.
Yeah, that was I mean, respect to the animator, but that was if I paid 50 G's for that, I'd be a little bit sad.
Yeah,
I kind of get it. Although on the other hand, I think like, okay, if I had 50 grand to spend on artwork, I would just like adopt a not safe for work artist to like live in my house for a few months, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like go full on like a medieval aristocrat.
Yeah, you'd be like a wealthy patron.
I feel like if I were in that position, if I had Verbalace money, I'd probably just have a different fursuit for every day of the week.
No, that's what I'm talking about. That's a smart investment.
Hell yeah, you would be like that one episode of The Simpsons with Mr. Burns and his like menagerie of like animal based outfits, except it's all fursuits.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I'm going to dinner, I gotta get into my my formal furry outfit for tonight.
Maybe like a penguin suit or something, just full on tuxedo,
something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, maybe we could talk more broadly. It doesn't have to be just about the wealth, but like what are the big demographics you see in like the furry community? Where are the sorts of people you're likely to run into at your average convention?
So at your average convention, I mean broadly and overall, now it's not everybody, but I'd say more a majority than in most other communities. You're gonna run into a lot of queer folk, because the community in general is just very accepting of like these like minorities and people who may have been in like the past that they were in a disadvantaged state, I guess you could say. And then it's just very open, like in terms of sexuality and just expression. You'll, like you said, you find a lot of tech people because just kind of from the origin of the furry fandom, at the advent of the internet, you had to be very familiar with like a lot of these online tools, whether it's forums, imaging boards, or just instant messaging clients. That was how you communicated with people that were in this, because it's not like you run into someone at the grocery and it's like, oh hey, it's Bob the Wolf.
So what you're saying,
yeah, for sure,
is a bunch of goddamn liberals.
It's a bunch of damn liberals, I'll tell you what.
Have you ever met one of those like weird Nazi furries?
I have not. I have heard of them, and they're definitely interesting. It's a very juicy contradiction.
Yeah, the Third Reich would have loved you guys for sure. Keep on doing what you're doing.
It's always just incomprehensible to me. Like, yeah, I believe in like racial purity and like authoritarian government structures, but I totally won't be one of the people sent to the death camps because I like to dress up as an animal or something.
Well,
it's like, what happens to somebody to make them that way?
Because they read Mouse and they were like, well, the Nazis were cats and my Fursona is a cat, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I think some people just get into like weird fandoms because they want to like make an in-group and an out-group to bully other people. Like, oh, I'm a furry, but I'm not like those other weird furries or something like that. It's completely whack in my opinion.
They've got to be like the least normal of the furry community though, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I will say hot take, but usually anyone who's like a Nazi fur or like any sort of anti-queer furry, they're usually not very welcome in the groups, and in a lot of cases are banned from like the wider convention spaces and stuff, because
for sure,
you want to have chill people at the party. You don't want the guy throwing his hand up at a 45-degree angle reading some 1940s publications,
Yeah, I'm sure.
You don't want to go. You don't want to go to Midwest Fur Fest and run into like the furry measurehead, like your fursuit betrays your degeneracy or some shit like that.
Yeah, I'm sure the analog, which is maybe a little bit more common in this scene, which I'm also not a part of, so I'm talking completely out of my ass. Everybody in the comment section, please dunk on me. But like
this whole show is about talking out of our ass. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. But like the punk scene, and you see the guys with like Nazi patches on their shit, and it's like 99% of people, from what I understand, are like, we would fucking kick this dude's ass and throw him out on the street. But you still see that in photos. It's just like, well, this is something that happens there. And I'm sure like the one photo I saw of like somebody in a fursuit with like a swastika armband is like absolutely like an incredible outlier, obviously, but it's still, but that one sticks in your mind more than just seeing somebody in like a fox suit just having a good time at Fur Fest.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you definitely, it definitely stands out, but yeah, not in the way that you would want to normally. Maybe for them there's some sort of thrill in triggering the libs or something, but yeah, for the most part, it's like as soon as you see one of those, it's like, all right, we gotta kick this guy out of the party before it gets all weird.
I think when I see people like that, I honestly think that like quote unquote triggering the libs is probably their real hobby more so than the actual furry thing. Because I see this a lot in other fandoms. Like when I casually follow a lot of like Warhammer stuff online, and every time I see some dipshit on Twitter posting like, oh, this is Donald Trump as the Emperor of Mankind, I'm like, you don't fucking play Warhammer, you fucking nerd. Get out of here. Okay?
True.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that the furry fandom is like overwhelmingly queer, because this is something I've noticed myself. Like I look back on my life, I've had a lot of furry friends and acquaintances over the years, and I realize I don't think I've ever met a straight furry in my entire life. And I don't think even the quote unquote like Nazi furs are probably like totally straight or like gender conforming either, right? Like those people are probably got some like fucking Nick Fuentes like dating my catboy maid boyfriend or something online. I don't know.
Oh, I can only imagine that. Yeah, they've probably got some they have some tendencies that probably wouldn't go well with their more bigoted friends.
Yeah, it's really weird. Maybe they just indulge in the whole like weird Nazi thing as like an outlet, because they feel bad about enjoying the thing that they like, which is like getting queer or like doing the whole furry fandom thing. I don't know. It's a weird thing.
They're just really big fans of history. Okay, it's nothing like that.
Oh yeah, my Spotify playlist is full of like German military marching numbers from the 1930s or something. People who play a little too much Hearts of Iron 4 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And I wonder how much of it, to a degree, is maybe like a grift or something, or if maybe some. I mean, I guess if you're getting like a whole suit and stuff, I mean that's a pretty devoted grift. So I don't know. Maybe they're a bit more genuine.
I think the issue we're running into here is that the three of us are trying to rationalize the mindset and behavior of people who are inherently irrational. So it's kind of like, yeah, well, we obviously see that there's a shit ton of cognitive dissonance here, but they're like, yeah, I'm just a racist dude in a raccoon suit. What's the issue here?
Yeah, you know, that's kind of like the deep like contradiction at the heart of doing a show like this. Like when we started the show, I was like, okay, I wanna understand the world better. I wanna find out what makes like weird or different or unique people tick. And we can speculate endlessly on all the different social reasons why like Nazi furries might be so and so, but like at the end of the day, some people are just like hateful losers. I don't know. And other people are just like, yeah, I just like the animal. There's nothing more to it, you know? So maybe, I don't know. There's some value to getting at the heart of these things, but also at the end of the day, it's also often like pretty simple, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I've noticed, I don't know if this is your experience with it or not, but aside from being very queer, I've also picked up on this trend that it seems like a lot of furs are also very autistic. What's your take on that?
Yeah, definitely. You find a lot of furries who, kind of like I mentioned previously, you get like a lot of minorities, whether that's kind of like sexuality or in this case neurodivergency. You get people on the spectrum in various different ways. I know they say ADHD's on the spectrum, so I guess I count in that. Maybe I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have undiagnosed, but in my opinion, probably pretty bad ADHD too. And I've read some things where it's like it's kind of like it shares half of the stuff with like the autistic spectrum. It's like its own spectrum. It's like kind of related, but I don't know. It's a whole thing. I shouldn't talk about psychological terms that I haven't studied.
Yeah, it's definitely like the Taco Bell mild sauce of the autism spectrum.
Well, my whole thing, which I was talking to somebody else about this recently, is like, so I am diagnosed ADHD. Like, how bad it is or whatever is like, I mean, really all these things are, it's just a bunch of symptoms that like half of these probably fucking everybody has, unless you're neurodivergent in a different way on the other side of the spectrum. But it's like really all these things are like tidy little categories for us to just say, oh, you have this, so now you're qualified to take Adderall or lithium or just whatever, mood stabilizers or whatever. And it's just like it's not just like I flipped the bipolar switch, so I'm bipolar, or I have the ADHD gene, so I'm ADHD. And again, just like Briar said, I'm talking completely out of my ass right now. I am not a registered health professional, but just like I really don't think it is as tidy as people want it to be, to just say I am this and I am not this. And that would be nice, and then you could just like take a pill and like and kind of balance that out. But yeah, so, but I'm sure neurodivergency lends itself to more non-traditional, non-mainstream fandoms and lifestyles and identities and shit like that.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to kind of like neurodivergency, I think you see a lot of that in just kind of general, like both like the queer community widespread as well as the furry community, is because it's like you're already outside of like the box that people consider like this is what you're supposed to be, so they're probably a lot more open to it's like, okay, well, maybe I feel this way about people, that it's like maybe I like the same gender, maybe I like all sorts of people, or maybe I'm a furry and I want to dress up in a costume, because it just kind of comes easier to them. Yeah,
and I think that's a really good take, and I think that kind of ties into another thing we wanted to talk about is I'm going to speak from my experience, and being a terminally online person since I was like in middle school, even before that, I know that it was always kind of a meme on the internet in general of just like, furries are cringe. Look at what happened with furries today. It was like it was tangential to like neckbeards and all of these other things that were just some sort of group that we can point and laugh at and feel better about ourselves, because we're totally
like
not
a collective punching bag.
Yes,
sort of
exactly. That's a really good way to put it. A collective punching bag that we can say, like, even though we're a bunch of fucking dorks that sit on the computer all day, at least we're not these guys. But I feel like as I mentioned when we chatted before the podcast, it might just be the spaces that I'm in now versus where I was at before. But I really feel like as a whole, we don't see the same amount of like pointing and laughing at the furries being cringe as much anymore. And do you think this, Felix? Do you see this going on too, where like furries are kind of more like accepted and respected?
Yeah, I would say, especially since I joined the fandom, I've been, let's see, what is it? I probably started maybe like 15 years ago, maybe. So it's been a while, but I think a lot of it and also the normalization of it kind of ties into, again, the kind of queer community in general, because it's like back then in the like 90s and 2000s up until like the 2010s, it was more acceptable to be anti-gay, anti-queer, anti-trans, versus now it's like you have more people that they have these kinds of people in their lives. They understand it's like, oh, this isn't like some sort of freak of nature type thing. It's just people being who they are. And I think that's a big part of it, is going with just furry specifically. It's, I think, as like cultural awareness increases around them, you're gonna get some people who are very like anti-furry, but I think for the most part, a lot of people, even like older people, it's like, especially like the people that go around in fursuits and stuff, it's like your average normie kind of finds it a little charming. It's a little weird, but at the same time, it's like they see these people having fun, enjoying their lives, and just being overall just having good vibes, and they seem to have a positive reception to that.
That's yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Almost like the average person is completely like they just think, oh, they see somebody out in a fursuit for the first time, and they think, oh, what a cool like sports mascot, or like a party like Halloween thing going on, and they haven't had the well poisoned with all this like weird internet discourse about like convention center hotel drama and like people posting about their fetishes on social media or whatever.
Yeah, and before we get into that, because that is a really good segue, I do want to push back on you a little bit, Felix. That's a really poignant and very, very smart take, but I disagree. I really think it's just because Zootopia made a lot of people horny.
That is a good case. I would agree somewhat, and I would say that Zootopia is definitely like a springboard for a lot of newer furries.
Ah, yeah.
Kind of a la Lola Bunny from Space Jam. It was it was the sleeper cell activation phrase for a lot of people.
People see Judy Hopps wander onto the scene for the first time in the theater, and they think, yeah, fuck the police. I'm down with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want to fuck the police.
I mean, bit of a hot take, but I was more of a fan of Giselle or Gazelle's design. Whoever was played by God, I'm forgetting the artist's name. She did like Shakira. Yeah.
Oh.
It's at this point that I reveal I'm a total poser and I've never seen Zootopia.
You didn't do your research for this episode? Jesus Christ. All right. Wow.
We were doing research? What? No, I think, honestly, the most Zootopia I've ever been exposed to is like that one webcomic somebody drew with like the weird like abortion, like Judy Hopps gets an abortion or something.
That comic, the infamous abortion comic, yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Maybe we can unpack that later.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to tell you, I haven't read that one, so I don't have that like expert inside knowledge on that one.
But I think the thing we were touching on before is so obviously there have been events that have transpired in the past that have given the furry community in general kind of a bad rap. And I know you, Felix, are you're familiar with all of these. What have been the milestones as far as, and I think they're all convention related, right?
A lot of them are. A lot of it's a lot of controversy can be just sort of internal politicking, but as far as like the big breakout ones, yeah. These seem to happen a lot around convention spaces, yeah.
Sometimes there'll just be like a little squabble between a few people online, and then it blows up and gets really big and round.
Yeah, we've all been yeah, for sure. But
we can get into a couple of those. There are like, so furries have kind of been like the target of the whole like cringe culture for like basically as long as the internet has been around. And it's kind of bullshit because like, as we've said before, like in the early days of the internet, basically everybody online was like somewhat tech savvy to like just get the machine working in the first place. And there's this whole like weird contradiction you see between like, oh, people in the 90s like with these fucking like 4chan Nazis with like K-on avatars looking at furries like, you guys are real weirdos, or something like that, with like no self-awareness or whatever. But yeah, like there's still a bit of an element of that whole like cringe culture around nowadays. And like, so if you look up stuff about furries on say like YouTube or something, you'll probably get some stories about the big incidents, like maybe at different convention centers, or like some notorious stories. So maybe we could like dig into a couple of those.
Yeah, so a couple that kind of come to mind is the first one being like a major just PR disaster as far as like the wider furry community, and I disavow everything that happened here. So there was a convention known as a Rainforest. It is, understandably, after you hear the details, no longer around because no hotels will take them.
Right.
But this was over in Seattle, and the convention had already been around for a few years, so it's not like this was like just a bad first year or anything. It's like they had a few years, but then in 2015 there was a lot of stuff that happened. One of the more viral things was there was some attendees known as baby furs, which I disavow. But
we're not about that life.
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that already.
Or at least, yeah. And so they have this thing where it's like they like to do what's called crinkling.
Okay.
Or basically just like publicly wearing diapers. And yeah.
Okay.
It's
okay.
And
it's like an onomatopoeia sort of deal.
Yeah. And there were some photos of a couple of these baby fur crinkler attendees with soiled diapers just kind of walking around the convention space, and it was like yeah, yikes. And
who else up crinkling right now? if you're crinkling right now listening to this, drop a comment.
If you've got if you've gotten this far in the podcast, put "I'm crinkling" in the comments.
Oh, geez. Like, my perception of the word is already corrupted because now I know what it is. But something about the word crinkler just has like, it hits harder than like gooner, right? Like it just kind of has an unsavory.
Yeah, it's like one of those words like moist. It just hits you in a way that just it doesn't vibe well.
Everybody, Moist Critical here, checking out this
Hey, what's up? I'm looking at the rainforest footage. This is shittier than a diaper crinkling in my poopy asshole. What's up, guys?
But
this convention's a bunch of poopy ass dicks.
But that's not the only thing that happened at Rainforest. There was like a whole laundry list of things, and I'm not sure why this convention of all places or who was in the space, but there were hotels that were being threatened to get kicked out of their hotel rooms because they were like dismantling fire alarms in the room so they could like hotbox. There were somebody took like all the pool towels and threw them in the pool and then stuffed one in the pool pump, breaking it.
Ooh.
They let's see, what else do I have here? There may have been a bit more than crinkling in the pool.
Oh no. Oh no.
And this one is alleged. This was never confirmed, but somebody was saying that there was a attendee that was trying to drill a glory hole in the bathroom.
Well, okay. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with that if you really break it. I'm just kidding. Don't do that, guys.
How does that even work? Do you just sit there for a long time with like a corkscrew or something, or do you bust out like the power?
Yeah, I'm guessing this guy. I'm guessing this guy just Googled the local like Home Depot, got the big hole drill bit, and just went to town.
Hey,
But,
can I rent a hammer drill? No real reason. I just need it to drill like a 3-inch hole through tile.
No, you gotta wander the convention ground and look for somebody with like a woodpecker for a suit and be like, hey, you want to make $20?
and then to top things off, there were people that were getting like I think there was a member of the con staff that got arrested for SA. Another person for physical assault, and then there was like just general like drug possession and dealing, and then the Crinklers, a couple of them littered the outside in a couple of pictures. There were some on like the hoods of other people's cars.
Jesus.
I just have to, I have to interrupt for a second. When you refer to them as the Crinklers, it sounds like you're talking about like some old-timey gang.
Yeah, the Crinklers are out again. God damn it. Johnny Law's never going to get me. I'm a Crinkler.
It'd be a real shame if you had this diaper on the hood of your car, see?
Yeah, you're gonna...
But yeah, a lot of that happened, and it was a very big dramatic moment in the furry community. A lot of people, myself included, disavow the whole thing and hope it never happens again, but I guess time will tell. And then kind of going in with this one's a more recent example. In 2021, there was, I forget what it stands for, but it was a BLFC 2021. There was a viral tweet of a bunch of people in a room party where they may have played a little bit of, if you're familiar with the term, salty cracker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
On a... I'm not familiar with
soggy biscuit.
Yeah, soggy biscuit.
I'm not familiar with that either. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay.
You've never been in a fraternity before?
No, I can't say I have.
Well,
but yeah, so they had a little fun and finished on a pizza. Allegedly, some of the people that participated ate this altered pizza, and then most of it was left out in a hotel hallway. So that was kind of another one of those like people doing very weird stuff and not being very respectful of the hotel or hotel staff, which be good to your hotels, people.
Yeah, that's like classic.
These guys are giving us space.
Well, you know, you try to order a pizza nowadays. It costs so much money for extra toppings when you can sit.
Yeah, that's yourself. A classic Papa John's moment.
And then this one was a bit of a controversy, not on the behalf of the furries, but going back to the whole cringe culture thing, on behalf of people who don't really like furries very much. At Midwest Fur Fest, funny enough, back in 2014, there was a chlorine gas attack on the main hotel of the furry convention. And 19 people ended up having to go to the hospital, and there were a lot more that were stranded outside in the December cold, while police and general like hazmat people, I don't know what to call them, but they were just trying to figure out what happened, and nobody ever found out. That's the scary thing is
Jesus Christ, and that's the Midwest too, so it gets
was the goddamn Russians.
Here, huh?
Yeah, there were people like a lot of the fursuiters to keep other people who, because this happened at night too, so it's like a lot of people were just rushed out in their pajamas in the middle of the night, and it's like freezing temperatures out, and it's like it's not fun to be out there, but it's like you got to be safe. But a lot of the fursuiters, they kind of like huddled people into a crowd, tried to keep them warm with like their fursuits and stuff. So there was a little bit of a what is it, a
silver lining.
Yeah, silver lining, a very nice moment where it's like
that's a weirdly wholesome thing. From what I've heard, fursuits can get very, very, very warm, so maybe that's nice in the cold.
Yeah, if there's ever a natural disaster, I'm finding the people with fursuits, because you can hop. You could probably do 2 to a fursuit, I would think.
Yeah, I think for some of them you could probably squeeze in.
Yeah, 2 or 3 people, depends.
It's like a little clown car. You just kind of pop off the fursuit head, and people just start climbing up.
Yeah, I'm gonna find the person with the horse fursuit.
You think anybody's ever done like a fursona that's like a 3-headed dragon or something? And it's like, oh, we need a few people for this fursuit or whatever.
I haven't seen that. I wouldn't be surprised if someone did try and do some crazy stuff like that. But there's like some interesting ones, kind of like I guess it's like that sort of classic old-timey costume where it's 2 people making up a horse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's been like 1 or 2 instances where I've seen something similar to that.
I think there's a certain type of person that's totally down to be to be the back of the horse.
Yeah, we call them bottoms.
Much love to all our bottoms in the community. We love you guys.
Yeah, so like I hear all these different controversies, and I think, okay, like I'm pretty open-minded and chill, so I hear all that stuff, and I think, okay, that doesn't like reflect badly on furries at large. I think, like, how does something like that happen? And from the different like YouTube documentaries, like videos that I've seen, it sounds like, okay, maybe that convention was just like really fucking poorly planned, or like run by people who didn't know what they were doing, and all those like problems kind of cascade when you let the wrong people into your fun little event, right?
Yeah, and at least for like the hallway pizza incident, since that was more of like just something that happened in somebody's hotel room, that one, even though it's like viral and unfortunate, it's there's not really much like a convention staff could do about that, unless I guess like if they knew the people that went viral, be like, hey, you're not allowed in the convention anymore, you're causing trouble. But at least for Rainforest, that one I think was kind of a combination of convention staff being a little too relaxed in their just kind of policing just general behavior and stuff, and not really clamping down when they should have for people, crinklers, going around in...
they weren't prepared for the crinklers is the problem. They should have been debriefed on that.
And then that's the thing is, at the time, I remember a lot of people were tweeting out about it, like, when they saw the photos of people in, like, the common areas. Because it's like, the other thing you have to consider is, it's like, when you go to a convention, you're not the only ones there. Sure, you're, like, the majority, but it's like, there's other people checking into the hotel.
Oh, sure.
There's other people doing stuff, so it's like, they're seeing this, and they see someone walking around, like, just in, like, a t-shirt and a diaper, and it's like, They don't know what to think, and honestly,
yeah, a lot of conventions, like venues, will book like 2 completely different conventions in like the separate sides of the same like large building or something. You know, the same day.
Yeah, they got Rainforest and Turning Point USA, and there's only one person who was going to both, and it's that dude in the skunk suit with a swastika armband on.
Oh, I was gonna say it was like Nick Fuentes' like boyfriend or something.
Yeah, same person.
We haven't seen Nick Fuentes and that Nazi fur in the same room.
True.
Oh, there could be anybody under the first.
It could be any of them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're gonna have to do more investigating here.
Remember to support the show so that we can eventually do live on the ground investigatory work. Like
exactly. I got my. I have an armored car on layaway, and I'm really trying to just tour the North America in it. Just finding.
One of these days, we'll have our own suspicious super despair world like news vans that we can just like disappear.
Exactly. I really want to pull the Nazi fursuit guy's head off like it's Scooby Doo, and it's just like, Nick Fuentes, it was you the whole time. I knew it. And he was like, God damn it.
I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you pesky Despair World reporters.
Shit.
If it wasn't for you meddling podcasters.
Yeah.
We'll bring down the Crinkler gang once and for all.
Once and for all.
Yeah, it's just... There's going to be a very dramatic scene before that. It's going to be four dudes in diapers, very stinky. It's like 4 royal guards block your path. What do you do? It's like, shit. It's going down.
Like a It's gonna be like a Mexican standoff in like the parking lot outside of one of these convention centers with like 5 furries in their diapers on one side and just us with our like shitty podcaster mics on the other.
Yeah, a podcaster mic versus 4 cupped hands with a giant turd inside of varying viscosities. You know, for every situation.
Yeah, make sure to gear up on protection against toxic damage before we go there.
Yeah, we need some serious PPE. Anyways, like and subscribe so we can afford that.
Yeah, you know, I think that covers most of what we had planned today. But I know, Felix, you said you had a little surprise.
Oh, true.
Oh, actually, funny enough, you beat me to the punch. I was gonna play the which furry are you game.
Oh
shit. Okay, well
shit, we already did it.
Well,
We did it.
Oh damn it, we already cut to the chase. Oh jeez.
I do have a better idea.
Okay.
Okay, lay it on us.
What would you like to each other? What kind of furry do you think each other would be? So, Briar, what do you think Dave's fursona would be, and Dave, what do you think Briar's ideal fursona would be?
Oh geez. Okay, give me a minute to think on this.
All right, all right. I'll go first. This is right off the top of my lizard brain. And speaking of which, I would see Briar is definitely a scaly.
I could get down with
possibly a Komodo dragon.
Ooh, that could be cool. Those are very cool. They're big, and I think they're like venomous or something too. I love those guys.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I think they're like the honey badger of the reptile world.
They don't take no shit.
They don't take no shit. I don't even know where they're from. Like Indonesia or something.
I think it's like somewhere there. Yeah, like around like Indonesia or like just. Not quite as far as China, but like just to the west.
I think they're from Komodo. Wherever that is.
They're from the Far East. The Orient. This magical creature.
I'm fine with this because as the Elder Scrolls taught me, reptilians can still have some big titties, so that's all good. No contradictions.
Oh, true.
True. If I had to pick one for Dave, I'm thinking maybe like one of the cooler like parrots, like some kind of talking bird, like the big like African gray parrots that can talk a lot. And my reasoning for this is that Dave is our audio guy and knows a lot about like music and audio stuff. So I'm thinking, okay, some kind of like bird that's very good at like communicating things and like can make a lot of different sounds.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Tropical birds are like incredibly amazing. I actually knew this like really. Have you ever known one of those like old weird hippie guys? I know they kind of exist.
I've known a few. Yeah. I've known a few when I was
well, I knew one, and
actually one of them was one of my art professors briefly in college.
They're always really interesting because they're either the nicest guy you'll ever meet, or they're like extremely problematic, like very conservative and racist guys with like a Grateful Dead t-shirt on who like to smoke weed.
Sometimes it's both. He'll be like, yeah, I'm just a chill guy. I like to play music and smoke weed, and I think January 6th was
hell yeah. There's a lot of there's a spectrum there, but there was one of those guys and he.
They still have the boomer brain rot, but they've smoked enough weed to like burn out the full capacity.
For sure, like their hippie aesthetic is like, I don't really want to like do, and I don't want to wear a suit, but I do think that like Mexicans are poisoning our society. But anyways, this guy he liked to smoke weed, so. Back when I used to smoke a lot of weed, me and my friend used to smoke weed with this guy, and he had a parrot, and this thing was like, it was cool as fuck, but like I was never ready to go down in his basement, which is where we used to like smoke weed, and this fucking thing, man, was just like, you'd walk down there, you forget he had a parrot, and it was just like, Blah! I was like, holy fuck, Jesus Christ, man, fuck, like. and it'd be spreading its wings, like trying to like intimidate you, and it fucking worked, man. Because these things are cool. But like, I remember when I was younger, I used to stare at this fucking bird, and I was like, dude, this is crazy as fuck. But like, all of those, they're basically descendants of dinosaurs, right?
Yeah, I'm fully on board the feathered dinosaur train. I think all of those were just like really big birds. I think that's cool as hell.
Who doesn't like birds?
I don't know how true this is, because when I think about this in retrospect, it feels like a story that older people would have told me when I was younger, just because it was funny. But one of my dad's friends growing up, he had this like pet bird or something, and it knew a lot of like swear words. It was just like a very vulgar bird. Like all the words that he taught it to speak were like swear words or something. And apparently it was because like my dad's friend was like divorced or something, and he used to fight a lot with his wife, so like the bird just picked up on all their like
That's
arguments.
amazing.
So like that was the only language it knew, apparently.
Everybody should have a talking bird with them at all times, so that you could just judge their character on that. Just like, hey, this dude seems kind of cool, but like his parrot just says slurs the entire time. Like, what's that all about?
I wanna run for president, and my whole thing will be like having a parrot on my shoulder, like some kind of pirate captain. I think that'll really set me apart.
Didn't Vermin
candidates.
Supreme do that? The guy with the boot on his head? Maybe I'm gonna imagine.
I mean, I don't know anything about a bird, but I mean, I guess there could be a bird in there. It's a pretty big boot.
I might have just invented that in my head, but he should have one, I think.
It's very in character for Vermin Supreme, who we love and support on this show. That's our favorite candidate going into 2024.
Yeah. During election season, we're gonna have him on the pod for sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be our November surprise with a little super despair world boost. It's gonna be like the graph of Jeb taking every state.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Like I said before, I don't know how much truth there is to that whole story about my dad's friend arguing with his wife all the time, but I did meet this parrot, and it did say a lot of curse words.
Yeah, I mean, it had to have learned it somewhere. That's all we can say about that.
Maybe to wrap up, we can also turn this little game back on Felix. Felix, what animal fursona would you assign both of us based on everything you've known from us prior in this episode so far?
Let's see. What would I do? Let's see. For Dave, I'm going to give him... Let's be outside the box. I'm going to make Dave a beaver.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And let's see. For Briar, I'm going to go with a squirrel.
Oh, shit.
A squirrel.
We have some creatures of the forest going on here.
Yeah.
I get a lot of squirrels in my area. One, because I live in the woods, so I see a lot of just like woodland critters all the time. But over the summer, outside my window, there's always a squirrel like crawling all over the little like deck furniture we have just outside there, and it always looks at me, and I don't know, I feel a little connection to these creatures.
Yeah, they're really nice. I got a couple that I see occasionally out of my window. They're just like running along the trees and stuff, and brightens my day up a little bit.
That's always been one, like growing up in the suburbs. It was always kind of like squirrels, whatever. But like when you really watch a squirrel for a while, it's like, damn, man, they're living a fucking life. They're really cool. Like they're crawl up, like run up any telephone pole, any tree. They're putting acorns.
They don't have YouTube metrics to worry about.
They don't have YouTube metrics to worry about. There's black squirrels out there that are kind of rare, but they don't really discriminate against them, from what I understand. It's like they've kind of figured out life, and whereas we haven't. Beavers, I haven't. Have I ever seen a fucking beaver in real life? I don't even know. I've definitely seen a beaver dam before, but
just earlier this week, I saw on the security camera, we've got a few around my house. I saw at like 2 a.m. There was a deer in my driveway just like eating from one of the shrubs. I'm like, I wish you wouldn't, because I like that shrub, but well, deer's gonna do.
Yeah, deer's gonna do deer shit, and Yeah, there's been some deer around here lately. They've infiltrated the this quasi suburb that I live in, and you know what, man? Do your thing. They're pretty majestic. I'm not gonna lie. They're fucking cool as shit.
I've never seen one of them like up close in person, but I have found the turds of some bears in my yard before. I think there are some like black bears around here, and I really like them a lot because like bears can be pretty scary, but from what I know, black bears are like huge pussies. Like it's easy to scare them off.
If it's
or
black,
something,
attack.
So.
If it's brown, get down. If it's white, good night.
Good night.
It's like.
If it's brown, it's time to crinkle.
Yeah, watch out for those crinkling bears. They'll get you.
Oh man,
I wonder if any of the crinklers were like a
bear
fursona.
Yeah, if I see a brown bear with a diaper, I'm running immediately in the opposite direction.
You know, speaking of running immediately, I think that's a good place to wrap up today. I think we've learned a lot.
Yeah, this has been a banger. Felix, you are a fucking great guest. And our first, by the way. So this is a serious milestone for us.
The first friend of the pod.
And
as it were.
you are officially a friend of the pod, and we're definitely gonna have you back at some point.
We'll call you up next time we need to round up a posse to deal with those crinklers.
Yeah, of course.
In the meantime, you should go to a really problematic con and gather some intel.
Yeah, I definitely plan on going to some other cons this year. Definitely Midwest Fur Fest because I'm just local to that area. But I might go to a couple of the other.
Is that an annual thing, or do they do it a couple of times?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's most conventions are usually annual, but yeah, Midwest Fur Fest is usually like very late November, early December.
Okay.
And it's the biggest one too. Just this past one that happened had over 15,000 attendees.
That's pretty wild. See, the thing is, like, I'm an ally of the furries. I wouldn't maybe consider myself one necessarily, but I like what y'all got going on. But I would totally be down to go to like a furry con. Like I think it would be a great time.
Hey,
hell yeah, I would too.
Yeah, if you ever want to do a Super Despair World goes to Midwest Fur Fest or Anthrocon, I'd definitely be down for it.
That could very well happen in the future with the love and support of viewers like you.
Yeah. This could potentially be our first live in person on location.
Very well could be. Until then, you'll be our possum on the ground, our man on the inside. As it were, get the inner scoop.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. To wrap things up, Felix, do you have anything you'd like to plug? Anywhere people can find you online, if that's what you're into?
Yeah, I guess I don't really do much online right now. I occasionally do some drawing, and I've got like a video game idea brewing in my head, but you could catch me on Twitter, or I guess X as it's now referred to as, at OG Trashbinz.
Oh.
Hell yeah. If you're listening on YouTube, we'll put a link to that in the description.
Yeah. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, and yeah, I hope to be back on soon.
Hell yeah, what an episode. You were a great guest. Thank you again. And I guess that's it for today. So good night,
fucking
everybody.
A. Good fight, good night.
Good night.